So recently we've seen the stock market falling around us, and even somebody who started investing before the last big crash in 2008, I myself have had my confidence shook. Usually when my confidence is shook on any investment or any company, I go back and look at the fundamentals, the numbers, and see if they still make sense. And if they do, it usually comforts me. But this time, it's not doing anything. Honestly, I'm reading about Ukraine, I'm reading about inflation, interest rates, and my nerves are absolutely taking a hit. So what should you do when the whole world is crumbling around you and you don't know what to do? Should you sell and just wait? Should you buy and go gold, oil, or Pokemon cards? Well, I went away and did some digging into some of the greatest investors of all time and found this video from 1994 of none other than Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett himself talking about the current market. So in this video, we're going to go through what exactly Warren Buffett thinks about the stock market and what you should do when the market is crumbling around you, but more so, what exactly you shouldn't do. So for me, literally going through hours and hours of archives, please can you do me the kind favor, make sure you have hit that like button. It would seriously help me push this video to a much larger audience. And also, if you want to join our chat room, check out 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐑𝐃 down on the pinned comment. If you do go ahead and use one of them links to sign up, you do get lifetime access to our chat room. So like you and many other investors, people are coming to YouTube to try and get financial advice and clarification what's happening with their stock or the overall market, and have a little bit of more advice on what they should actually do. And over the last couple of years, it's been quite easy because the sentiment has just been buy anything and it's gonna go up. But since the turn of this year, it's not been a pretty place. In fact, I see it now in my comments on social media. The world is turning for the worst and people are starting to really freak out what to do with their investment. Should they sell and just sit in cash, but then cash will lose money on inflation? Should you just hold on for dear life? What the hell should you do? Well, I'm sure by now, if you've been watching videos on YouTube or reading articles, you've heard you can't time the market, and it's never been more true than now. And the most recent example of this, why you can't time the market, nobody expected Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine. Nobody seen it coming after the last 2 years of economical damage we've had with the world being closed. Nobody thought this would happen. Literally 3 years of hell. You can't predict when the next big natural disaster is going to happen, the next big oil spillage, or literally anything. This is what it means by you can't time the market. The only thing you can do is hold on for dear life. But I get it, in these circumstances, you're waking up every day and seeing red on your account, and the red is getting bigger and bigger. The losses are getting harder and harder. I myself have been invested into Alibaba, and I put out a video saying I was down 28 grand just before the new year. Now I'm down near 60. I understand, I'm with you, I feel the pain too. And I will be straight with you, I've not mentioned this on the channel, but a couple of weeks ago, I even thought about selling Alibaba because I thought it's gonna fall further, and it has. And it's even hurting my pride even more that I could have just not lost that much money, bought it back now, and I'd be in a much better situation. But again, the reality is, you cannot time the market. And that's why I stayed in, but also because of what Warren has to say right now in 1994 when he was asked about how the stock market affects his buying decisions.
You may have trouble believing this, but Charlie and I never have an opinion about the market because it wouldn't be any good and it might interfere with the opinions we have that are good. If we're right about a business, if we think a business is attractive, it would be very foolish for us to not take action on that because we thought something about what the market was going to do or anything of that sort, because we just don't know. And to give up something that you do know and that is profitable for something that you don't know and won't know because of that, it just doesn't make any sense to us.
Now this really hit home for me because I myself try and model myself on people like Warren Buffett, where I buy value. I buy a company because of its numbers. I buy a company because of its dollar cash flow. And $1 will still equal $1. Even though that $1 might buy you less beer or less groceries, it's still equivalent to $1, which is what I'm using to buy a company. So all we can do is do our math correctly and find a valuation for a company. And if we buy that company, whatever happens to the market, it doesn't really matter, because if we've picked the stock correctly in the first place, eventually we will be rewarded. And even in a world where inflation's on the rise, interest rate fears are real, and we've got countries invading each other with sanctions being thrown around like it's lubricant on a porn set, now is not the time to be panicking, provided you have planned correctly in the first place. And Warren continues with a personal experience he has had himself when he bought his first stock at the age of 11.
It doesn't make any sense to us, and it doesn't really make any difference to us. I mean, I bought my first stock, I think, in probably April of 1942 when I was 11. And since then, I mean, actually World War II didn't look so good at that time. I mean, the prospects, they really didn't. I mean, we were not doing well in the Pacific, and I'm not sure I calculated that into my purchase of my 3 shares. But I mean, just think of all the things that have happened since then, you know, atomic weapons and major wars and presidents resigning and all kinds of things, massive inflation at certain times. To give up what you're doing well because of guesses about what's going to happen in some macro way just doesn't make any sense to us.
So Warren backs up what I've just said there, and that is that if you do your math correctly and you value a company correctly, eventually you're going to be rewarded because $1 is equal to $1. That's it. It doesn't have to be complicated, provided the company is profitable, it has good cash flows, and its business model is sound, and then fundamentals stay intact. No matter what happens in terms of politics, in terms of inflation, in terms of interest rates, you will be rewarded. And Warren's seen it all, and I'm sure he's sat in his office reading his financials, drinking a Coca-Cola, maybe even watching this very video, not worried one bit. I think right now a lot of people are really nauseous and worried about their investments because they have done something very wrong on step 1, and that is pick a company that doesn't have good cash flows and does not have good fundamentals. Maybe they've gone in too big, too far, too fast. You can have speculation plays, that's fine, but if it makes up the bulk of your portfolio, it's going to hurt a lot more than usual because you don't know when the company is going to turn around. So I'm going to leave you with these final words of wisdom from Warren Buffett himself to close out the video. If you've watched this far, drop the code word down in the comments, which is Buffman. Thanks very much for watching, and be safe out there. See you in the next one.
The best thing that can happen from Berkshire's standpoint, we don't wish this on anybody, but over time, is to have markets that go down a tremendous amount. I mean, we are going to be buyers of things over time. If you're going to be buyers of groceries over time, you like grocery prices to go down. If you're going to be buying cars over time, you like car prices to go down. We buy businesses. We buy pieces of businesses, stocks. And we're going to be much better off if we can buy those things at an attractive price than if we can't. So we don't have any fear at all. I mean, what we fear is an irrational bull market that's sustained for some long period of time.